All right, I think we are live. And hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to another Conscious Coaching conversation. This is actually our first one for 2021. And I hope this year has started off with as much blessings and abundance for everyone. And Manisha and I, are very excited actually to talk about our topic today, which is something that's very close to our hearts as well as coaches. Today's topic that we are going to cover in the conscious coaching conversation is about a mindful leader coach. Um, and this is not a term very popularly used. So we will go a little bit deeper into why we thought this was a topic we can talk about. And we also wanted to share through today's conversation a framework that we have at Shenomics, which we believe is very powerful for any leader to use with his or her teams, or even with the people around them, right? It not necessarily people who work with them in their teams, but anyone who this leader has an impact on. So yes, with that little introduction to today's topic, let me take a moment to introduce myself. I am Divya Martyn. I head client and community engagement at Shenomics. And I have with me, of course, my colleague Manisha, who is the head of coaching at Shenomics. So to kick off the discussion, Manisha, actually, I wanted to ask you, could you share what your thoughts are around this whole term of mindful leader coach, right? Because like we were saying, it's not something that many people talk about even. So what comes to you, and what does that mean to you?
Yes, thanks, Divya, and good afternoon, everybody. So, a mindful leader coach to me is someone, Divya, who's committed to the long-term development, of self-awareness and self-reliance in whoever they are leading, um, directly, indirectly. Um, and here, long-term is the key because it goes beyond deriving performance and delivering results. It's about the being in service of developing people, um, and therefore leaders who are mindful leader coaches have coaching as a leadership style. It's interwoven into the way they lead. So with this context, Divya, why according to you this is something of relevance now more than ever?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, because also given the kind of world we live in from a work perspective, right, where everything now obviously has become virtual, I feel like there are three things that being a mindful coach can positively impact for both a mindful leader coach, both for the leader as well as for the people that the leader works with, right? One is, of course, I strongly feel like the whole idea of being a leader coach can spark entrepreneurship among the team, among individuals. Because the whole idea of a leader coach is, of course, not to give directions, right? Like you were saying, the idea of a leader coach and the focus of a leader coach would be to really look at the long term development of the individual or the individuals that they are speaking to. Um, and when you look at long term development, um, the ability to develop someone to really be creative, to support them in taking ownership of the work that they are doing. All of that really can help elevate the way a team is working, right? And it really sparks that whole excitement of being an entrepreneur within an organization, which is something, especially in today's day and age, I think becomes even more important, because innovation is everything, right, today. And the more you can spark that joy of innovation in your team, give them the space to be able to experiment and do new things differently, I think the more it just makes the environment in the organization more exciting and fun to be with, make the people be able to tap into their capabilities more. um, so that I feel like is a key key reason why being a mindful coach is important today. What about you, Manisha? What do you think of that?
I completely agree with you. I think in a world where things are changing so rapidly, it is the style where there is command and control or telling. No one knows all the answers because everything is ever evolving.
Mm,
And hence, if that culture of entrepreneurship has to be cultivated, there needs to be space for that, space for thinking, space to be okay with experimenting and expressing yourself freely. So I completely
mm,
agree with that.
yeah. And it's interesting because the more you experiment and the more you take risks, the more you will fail also, right? Because that is a part of being an entrepreneur. But then
Yes,
creating that safe space to be okay with failure and learning from that failure, that also becomes such a key role that a mindful leader coach would play in this whole, relationship that they cultivate.
yes,
And another thing I
absolutely.
feel like it also really can add to is building accountability among the team itself. Because gone are the days when, we require people to, like, swipe in and out, things like that, right? People now do need to be accountable for their work. There needs to be a level of trust between the leader and the team. And all of that really can be cultivated when the team also believes that the leader coach has their best interest at heart and
Yes.
wants to develop them in that way. What are your thoughts around that, Manisha?
Yes, I think, Divya, like you were saying, it's about cultivating leadership through an environment of trust and psychological safety. Maybe even delegating in a way that facilitates their growth and development,
Hmm.
right? Delegating and letting them own a certain piece. And closely related to your point of accountability, really inculcating ownership. And again, that relates to your first point also about entrepreneurship,
Hmm.
right?
Correct.
Because that facilitates a culture of learning, creating, and really taking that initiative and seeing things through end to end,
Yeah.
uh, through the entire life cycle, and learning through the process,
Mm,
thinking independently. So it is building that competency and creating the next rung of leaders.
exactly. That's such a beautiful point you've made, right? Because the whole role of the mindful leader coach then gets defined that way.
Yes.
You are being a mindful leader coach when you are able to cultivate and actually help the next rung of leaders grow. And that's the whole point of being a leader. A leader is there to help everyone else also rise up with them. And what a beautiful role then that is as a leader
Absolutely.
coach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it has the potential to transform culture.
Correct. Yeah, which is so important, today in today's day and age, especially when it's becoming more and more obvious at this point that the organization's culture, the kind of psychological safety that is prevalent in that culture, all of that plays such a key role for an employee to be able to really give their best at work, right? There
Yes.
was an interesting McKinsey article also that recently said that for 2021, the focus is going to be in organizations on the well being of their employees. That's the number one focus.
Mm.
And just imagine then when you shift that focus from deliverables or whatever is the role of that employee to how is that employee doing, how are they feeling in this team that they're a part of, how do they think they can contribute more, when you start looking at those at it from that perspective, what a great shift it is also, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And like you were saying also, mindful leadership and leading as a mindful leader coach are so intertwined because the two styles become so they complement each other so beautifully, right? And would you then want to share, Manisha, what is the Shenomics framework that we have when we are looking at really what can help a person be that mindful leader coach?
Yes, sure, Divya. And the framework is so all that we spoke about had such far-reaching impact, and the framework is relatively simple. It's a three-part framework, um, and it starts with really asking questions that that have the potential to spark those insights and to discover what is within. Um, and sometimes that first question is what becomes a roadblock, right? So it could be as simple as what's on your mind today, creating that space, linking it to the well-being piece that you were talking about, right? So, creating space, letting the person think, express what they are feeling, what's on their mind. So number one is asking powerful questions. The second, after asking questions, is listening. And listening, listening at a higher level where we're not just engaging at a sensory level, but also listening for emotions, again connecting it to well-being, right? Listening beyond what is being said, listening for the context in which someone is saying what they're saying, listening for the thoughts, being fully present, bringing all the curiosity, thinking, also, bringing the possibility mindset, and listening from that space, because something beautiful may emerge out of it. um, and the third is non-judgment, which is a core pillar of mindfulness. um, and a story that we always like to narrate with this is that of a Zen master who was approached with the request of teaching what he had to offer. And as the student was sitting, really gearing up to ask all the questions, the master decided to serve tea. And as his visitor watched, he kept pouring tea and waiting for the cup to fill. And when the Zen master kept on pouring the tea, he could no longer hold himself back, and he said, "Stop, because there's no space left." And that's when the master also said that, exactly, to be able to really learn, you have to create space and let go of your judgment, the your version of the reality. And that's, I think that's such a beautiful parable of um, of how to really let go of what we are carrying for that moment, so that we can create that non-judgmental space, create that psychological safety, and create space for something beautiful to emerge. um, and as I was narrating this, Divya, something that came to my mind was, I think all those leaders who've been those mindful leader coaches kind of came back to my mind. One beautiful thing that I've noticed about all of them is that they follow this framework for themselves. So they are introspective. They question themselves in a gentle and non-judgmental way. They create that space for themselves to learn and grow. um, and so it's a framework which is, of course, for those who are leading, but for ourselves also, to grow each day. And would love to, I would love to invite those who are listening or will listen to this session to share stories of who've been those mindful leader coaches for them. And how are they being mindful leader coaches? Because we would love to feature those stories on our newsletter. Divya, what would your ask be?
My ask is, of course, related to if this is something that resonates with you and you feel like this is something you'd want to even, try out in your teams or in your organization, feel free to reach out to us. Because, like Manisha was sharing, this is very much a framework that impacts each individual. Whether you are the leader or you are a part of the team, it's something all of us can inculcate. And it brings in such a beautiful relationship that you cultivate with yourself and the people around you. And we'd love to be a partner with you in this journey. So if that is something that resonates with you, feel free to reach out to us, and we'd love to also speak to you further about that. Right. Thank you
Yes.
so much, everyone, for your time today. Um, feel free to let us know if there were any questions you might have about our framework, about what we shared. We'll also share a few resources in the comments below that we felt really spoke more about what it means to be a mindful leader coach. Um, and yeah, we look forward to meeting you next month in another conversation. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us today, and have a good day. Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.